Is the Lord among us or not? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Some things never change. Most people like a good moan, don't they? And the reading from Exodus is one of several stories about the Israelites complaining to Moses. In chapter 14, with the Red Sea at their front and pursuing Egyptian soldiers at their rear, they complained to Moses that he had brought them out of slavery in Egypt to die in the wilderness, and said that they would have been better off as slaves. In chapter 15, then at Marah, complained because the water was bitter. Chapter 16, then they complained that they should have stayed in Egypt, where they had plenty to eat, because they were hungry in the wilderness. Now, in each of these instances, God responded by giving them what they needed. However, they never seemed to learn that God was with them and would provide for their needs. They never learned to trust God and his servants Moses and Aaron. They never learned the lesson of faith, and always fell back on the human trait of having a good moan. So what were they moaning about? Let's look at the early verses of chapter 17 that we've just heard. From the wilderness of sin, the whole congregation of Israelites journeyed by stages as the Lord had commanded. The wilderness of sin was located between Elim and Sinai. We don't know its exact location, and we shouldn't get confused because the word sin in this context probably related to the Hebrew word for Sinai, rather than how we would understand sin. And we should also not confuse the wilderness of sin with the wilderness of Zin, which we hear about in Numbers and other Old Testament books. Journeying by stages gave the Israelites an opportunity for rest and refreshment. But of course they would need a source of water at each stop, because people and livestock require significant amounts of water every day, far too much to carry. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. Now Rephidim is their last camping place before Mount Sinai, so the mountain must be close. At Marah, the water was bitter, but at Rephidim there was no water at all. An extremely serious problem. People and livestock just can't survive without water. So this is a matter of life and death. The people quarrelled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Now the original word used, translated as quarrelled, was rib, which could also be used as plead, strive, contend, chide, or debate, and was often used in a legal sense to describe a legal complaint. In this case, the people issued their complaint against Moses, demanding he give them water to drink. Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" Moses was making it clear that their quarrel wasn't with him, but with God, because Moses was simply God's servant and had been doing God's bidding. But the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? To kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" Now it's easy for us, we've probably never been truly thirsty, never faced the likelihood of death from lack of water, to be critical of these people. But we have to remember that the fact that we've never walked in their shoes is qualified a little bit by by seeing in the previous chapters how God saved them again and again from apparently hopeless situations. Surely they should understand that God will rescue them. They don't. But I suppose if our throats were parched and our children were crying out for water to drink, we might forget God's past providence too. So we need to balance those concerns with the fact that God had saved the Israelites, not once, not twice, but over and over again. So they have cause for fear, but also they have cause for faith. When times are really difficult, that's when faith is tested. So Moses cried to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." As he routinely does when faced with a crisis, Moses turns to God for help. But we need to keep in mind that this is actually before the giving of the Jewish law. But this passage was probably recorded after the giving of the law, because the law prescribes stoning for various capital offences such as idolatry and blasphemy. And if Moses was guilty of intentionally leading these people to their deaths, stoning would seem to be a highly appropriate punishment. However, that really isn't the case, because Moses is simply following God's orders. The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you. Take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile and go." In a dangerous situation, our natural inclination is to fight or flee. God tells Moses to do neither of those. He's to move to the front of the people to reaffirm his status as their leader. He's to take the elders with him, both to confirm his leadership and to act as witnesses of the miracle that was about to occur. He's to take the staff which God has enabled Moses and Aaron to use in miraculous ways. "I will be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb." Horeb is where Moses encountered the burning bush to begin his journey as God's agent. The word Horeb means desolate region or ruin. Now, Sinai and Horeb are different names which could be used for the same mountain. And where the distinction possibly appears is that the mountain itself is Sinai and the neighbouring wilderness areas bear the name of Horeb. It's probably a bit confusing because the people don't actually arrive in Sinai until chapter 19. However, if Horeb is the region and Sinai is the mountain, it could be that they've just reached the edge of the region, but not the mountain itself. God says he will be standing on the rock that Moses is to strike. Perhaps the idea is that God will stand on the rock to lead Moses to it, but move before Moses strikes the rock, because it wouldn't seem right for Moses to strike a rock on which God was standing. However, the actual details are a little unclear. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it, so that the people may drink. Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. In the Numbers account of this, Moses was supposed to speak to the rock that struck it instead, and was punished for his disobedience. In this account, God orders him to strike the rock, and Moses obeys, and the elders serve as witnesses to the miracle. He called the place Massah, which means testing, and Meribah, which means quarrelling, because the children of Israel quarreled, and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" That final question, "Is the Lord among us or not?" is one I think many people are probably asking right now. It is of course down to each one of us to find the answer for ourselves. But I believe he is, always was, and always will be, however much we may know. But however dark the world may seem around us, we always need to remember the lesson that the Israelites forgot: to have faith and to be patient.